Welcome to Crying Inside, where family stories are told through tears, pain, and the strength to rise again in the end. Thank you for visiting the channel today. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so now, because the next story might be the missing piece of your heart. This is a family story that started with what seemed like a simple birthday wish, but turned into a deep wound for a child. Sometimes, the people we love and cherish the most are the ones who break us the deepest. And it's in those moments of rejection that we find the strength to stand up and choose a new path for ourselves. Our main character is Maria, a 32-year-old Filipino woman. Throughout her childhood and youth, Maria lived just to please her mother. She put aside her dreams, gave up her own happiness, and sacrificed everything, just hoping for a smile of approval. But all she ever got were criticisms, comparisons, and cold distance. Then, at her mother's 65th birthday party, one sentence shattered everything. "The best gift is for you to disappear from my life." Before we dive into this story, I want to ask you, if it were you, would you have the courage to disappear and leave, or would you choose to stay and keep enduring? Let's follow the story to the end, and don't forget to share your own family story in the comments. Because here at Crying Inside, we believe only when we dare to tell, dare to cry, do we truly begin to heal. Warm yellow lights spread over tables draped in pristine white cloths inside a fancy restaurant in downtown Cebu City. White lilies and purple orchids are carefully arranged on the banquet tables, their scent faintly filling the air. The soft clinking of cutlery against glass echoes gently. This scene should have been the happiest moment for a 5-year-old mother, surrounded by family and close friends. Maria sat quietly at the end of the table, her heart full of hope. For weeks, she had prepared everything for today, choosing the restaurant, ordering dishes that suit her mother's taste, picking a birthday cake with her mother's favorite flavor, even saving money to buy a classic brooch, a gift her mother had admired at an antique shop but never dared to buy. Maria believes that today might be the first time she sees a truly satisfied smile on her mother's face. Guests raise their glasses one after another. The atmosphere is filled with cheerful congratulations. Rosalinda, Maria's mother, in a luxurious dark blue owl dye, wears a calm smile. She is the image of the perfect woman in everyone's eyes, strong, respected in the community, and always honored. But to Maria, that smile was never meant for her. When a friend stands up and suggests, "Rosalinda, at 65, you must have a wish or a few words to say to everyone, right?" The whole room falls silent, waiting. Rosalinda slowly stands, holding a glass of red wine, her gaze sweeping over everyone before stopping on Maria's face. She smiles, but that smile is as cold as a knife. She speaks clearly. "At this age, people usually hope for a special gift, and I know what the best gift for me today is." Everyone leans forward, curious and waiting. Maria holds her breath, clutching the small gift box tightly in her lap, her heart pounding. Rosalinda emphasizes each word. "The best gift would be if my daughter Maria would leave my life." The room freezes. The laughter and chatter suddenly stop, leaving an unbearably silent space. Glasses hang suspended in midair. Some guests look at each other, some bow their heads, pretending to be busy with their napkins, avoiding Maria's eyes. Maria sits motionless, her ears ringing, her heart feeling crushed. All the memories of trying to please her mother flood back in that moment. Every criticized gift, every comparison to her sister, every long night crying silently because she felt she was never good enough. But never, not once, did Maria think her mother would say this. Right there at the party, in front of everyone. Maria's hands tremble so much that the small box slips and falls under the table without her noticing. Inside that box was a sapphire and diamond brooch she had saved for a whole year to buy. She believed it would move her mother, but everything shattered with just one sentence. A few friends force smiles and try to make jokes to lighten the tense atmosphere. Isabella gently touched her mother's hand and whispered, "Mom, maybe that's a little too harsh." But Rosalinda just took a sip of wine and calmly said, "I'm just telling the truth. At my age, I don't want to be surrounded by things that drain me. I need peace. And the truth is, Maria suffocates me." Maria felt torn apart inside. She stood up, the chair scraping loudly against the floor in the silent room. She bowed her head, her voice hoarse. "Sorry, I need some air." No one stood to stop her. No comforting words, only looks of pity, avoidance, and a few whispered comments. Maria walked out of the banquet hall, through the glittering restaurant lobby, and into the cool night of Cebu. Outside, the traffic noise was still loud, the crowd still bustling. But inside Maria, there was only emptiness and shame. Her eyes blurred with tears. In her heart, something shattered, something she had tried to protect for 32 years. That night, driving back to her small home, Maria kept hearing one phrase repeated in her mind. "The best gift would be if you disappeared from my life." And in that moment, a reckless but decisive decision formed in her head. If that's truly the gift her mother wanted, she would give it. Her name is Maria Dela Cruz, 32 years old. In the small coastal town of Leyte, everyone knows Maria as a kind, devoted, and responsible woman. She doesn't stand out like a beauty queen or a celebrated talent in the news, but anyone who's met her would admit Maria is the type who thinks of others before herself. Maria's appearance is simple. She's of average height, with long hair usually tied back with an ordinary fabric band. She rarely wears makeup, just a light powder and pale lipstick when going to work or church. Maria's face isn't striking, but her eyes radiate gentleness and warmth, the eyes of someone used to listening, enduring, and being patient. Maria dresses very simply, mostly in blouses and neutral-colored office skirts. Sometimes she wears a light floral dress for Sunday Mass. It's not that she lacks taste, in fact. As a graphic designer, Maria has quite a good artistic sense. But for many years, she learned to choose what her mother would accept, rather than what she truly loved. For Maria, a small joy was not being criticized by her mother any further. Since childhood, Maria lived in the shadow of her older sister Isabella. If Maria was just an ordinary girl, Isabella was always seen as the perfect role model. She studied in Manila, achieved excellent results, had a job at a big bank, married a wealthy man, and had well-behaved children. Every time Isabella came home for fiestas or Christmas, the whole neighborhood admired her. Their mother Rosalinda beamed with pride, telling everyone about the big contracts her eldest daughter had just signed and the luxurious trips Isabella's family had been on. Meanwhile, Maria, though, always by her mother's side, taking care of her in every little way, like cooking meals, taking her to the doctor, fixing the leaky roof, only heard complaints. "Maria, can't you stand up straight? Look at other girls, how beautiful they are. Who can eat soup this salty that you make? Why don't you learn a little from Isabella? She has degrees, a big career, but you, just stuck in that small office. What's there to be proud of?" Gradually, Maria got used to being compared. But getting used to it didn't mean it didn't hurt. Every word her mother said felt like a cut, making her feel both sad and hungry for recognition. She hoped that if she just tried a little harder, did just a little better, maybe one day her mother would smile at her, the way she always smiled at Isabella. Maria grew up under that harshness, but her heart never hardened. On the contrary, she became even gentler and more compassionate. Maybe because deep down, she understood what it meant to be hurt. She never wanted anyone else to feel that way. At the small advertising company where she worked in Cebu, Maria was known for staying late to help coworkers meet deadlines or giving up chances for promotion if she saw someone needed it more. Her boss liked her, and her colleagues cared for her. But Maria always hid the fatigue behind her smile. In love, Maria had never had full happiness either. The guys who entered her life, one by one, quickly left, not because Maria was bad, but because they couldn't handle a woman who was always tied down by family. Every few months of dating, Maria had to choose between going out with her boyfriend or going home to take care of her mother. And in the end, it was always her mother who stayed. Maria once dreamed of one day stepping foot in Manila or even abroad, working for big design corporations. But when her father passed away, she decided to give up the scholarship opportunity in Manila to stay close to her mother. For the next 16 years, Maria never left her hometown. For many, it was a noble sacrifice. But for Maria, it was simply the only choice she had, because her mother always reminded her, "If you leave, who will take care of me?" That's why Maria became a woman who longed for recognition more than anything else. She didn't need glory. She didn't need money. The only thing she wished for was a hug, a compliment, a loving look from the mother who gave her life. But for over 30 years, that never came. Isabella's shadow was too big, and Rosalinda's strictness was too cold. Maria was like a silent shadow within her own family, always present, always devoted, but no one truly saw her. And because of that longing, Maria placed all her hopes on her mother's 65th birthday party. She believed that special gift would be the key to open the tightly shut door of her mother's heart. But as we saw, in just a moment, all those hopes were shattered. The town where Maria's family lived is by the coast of Leyte, a peaceful land with soft white sands and rows of coconut trees swaying in the breeze. Life here isn't as noisy as Manila, nor as bustling as Cebu, but it has its own charm, a strong community bond and traditions passed down through generations. Maria's family home is a traditional wooden bahay, built back when her father was still alive. The roof is made of nipa, with wooden window frames carved simply. From the outside, the house always looks clean, with neatly trimmed plants, standing as a model symbol in the small neighborhood. People often pass by and say, "Rosalinda's house is so beautiful, just like in a magazine." But few know that inside that house, Maria has to live with cold judgments every day. Her mother, Rosalinda, is a respected woman in the community. She is a member of the barangay council, the local council, regularly organizing community activities. During fiesta, she's always the main coordinator, from dividing the tasks, decorating the streets with colorful flags, to inviting the band and arranging the program at the church. Everyone in town sees her as a pillar of the community, a reliable foundation. Every Sunday morning, Rosalinda dresses neatly in a stylized women's barong Tagalog, holding her prayer book, and walks into Mass at the town's main church. People around greet her with smiles, saying, "Thank you, Ma'am Rosalinda, for helping prepare today's celebration." To outsiders, she looks like a powerful yet virtuous woman, always willing to sacrifice for the community. But when the door closes behind her, a completely different world opens. A world where Maria, the second daughter, has to carry the weight of invisible pressure. In front of outsiders, Rosalinda speaks sweetly, but inside those wooden walls, she doesn't hesitate to criticize, compare, and belittle her daughter. The praise Maria longs for is all reserved for Isabella, her successful older sister in Manila. That contrast makes Maria feel more and more like a shadow in her own home. Every fiesta, she's busy cooking, cleaning, and serving food to guests, while her mother boasts to everyone, "My Isabella just signed a big contract in Manila. She really is the family's pride." People gasp in admiration, and everyone looks up to her, while Maria quietly cleans the dishes, feeling like her presence isn't worth anyone's attention. Sometimes, when passing through the town square, where villagers gather after Mass, Maria hears people say, "Maria is so kind and sacrifices so much for her mother." But why does Rosalinda rarely mention her? Some people feel sorry for Maria, but most only see Rosalinda's surface and admire her more. In Leyte, the community sticks together like one big family. Everyone knows each other's family stories. Everyone cares for one another. And because of that, the image Rosalinda built outside made it even harder for Maria to open up about her pain. If she complained, someone would probably brush it off. "Don't be sad. Your mom is an amazing woman. Everyone loves her." That reality made Maria feel more and more alone. She had to live in two opposite worlds. One where her mother was the most respected woman in the barangay, and another where she was the never-enough daughter in the eyes of the woman who gave birth to her. That gap grew deeper every day, until the 65th birthday party in Cebu City, where everything was revealed in just one sentence. That year, Maria had just turned 16. At an age when other high school girls dreamed about the future, sparkling proms, or beach trips with friends, Maria's life suddenly took a different turn. Her father, Roberto, the only doctor in the town of Leyte, suddenly died of a heart attack while on night duty at the small clinic. The bad news hit like a storm that wiped everything away. Maria clearly remembers that morning, hearing urgent knocks and seeing two nurses outside with stunned faces. They didn't have to say anything. Just a slight shake of the head was enough to shatter Maria's world. Roberto was the only one in the family who made Maria feel loved and protected. Unlike her mother, he never compared Maria to her older sister. He hung her messy drawings in the clinic, calling them my daughter's artwork. He patiently sat for hours listening to Maria talk about her dream of becoming a graphic designer, even promising, "After you graduate, I'll take you to Manila. There are big companies there. You'll shine with your own talent." But all those promises turned to dust overnight. Her father's funeral was simple, but had many attendees. Townsfolk, former patients, friends, and colleagues, all came to say goodbye. Maria still remembers her mother Rosalinda crying openly in public for the first time. But after that day, her mother's tears disappeared too. In the old wooden house, not a trace of warmth remained. Father's death was like a closing door, revealing mother's true face. If before Roberto acted as a shield, softening harsh judgments, now Maria had to face them all head-on. The first meal after the funeral, when Maria ate only half a bowl of rice before putting down her chopsticks, her mother looked straight at her and said, "How can you study well eating so little? But if you eat too much, you'll get fat, and no one will care about you." Maria sat frozen, chopsticks falling from her hand. In the past, whenever this happened, her father would smile kindly, push a piece of fish to her and say, "Keep eating. My daughter is most beautiful when she's herself." But now, in the silent house, no one stood up to defend her anymore. Time passed, and her mother's control grew stricter. Mrs. Rosalinda tracked every step, every grade, every friendship Maria had. Even coming home 10 minutes late from school brought endless questioning. Wearing a bright-colored dress, her mother immediately criticized, "You don't look proper at all. Look at your sister Isabella, always elegant and refined." The peak was when Maria received a full scholarship from a university in Manila for graphic design, the exact dream she'd had since she was a child. That should have been the happiest news of her life. She excitedly brought the acceptance letter home, hoping her mother would be proud. But Mrs. Rosalinda coldly replied, "Manila is so far away. Who will take care of me when I'm dizzy, when I fall? Are you planning to abandon me?" Maria choked up, "But I have dreams, Mom. I want to be a designer. I want to live for myself just once." Rosalinda just sighed, her voice icy. "Dreams? Your father has left us, and now you want to leave me too? You're such an ungrateful child." Those words stabbed straight into her heart. That whole night, Maria clutched the acceptance letter, crying until she could hardly breathe. She knew if she left, she'd carry the guilt of being unfilial forever. But if she stayed, she would lose herself. And in the end, like always, Maria chose to sacrifice. She declined the scholarship and enrolled in a local university right there in Leyte, just a few kilometers from home. Friends were surprised, teachers regretful, but Maria just smiled and let it go. Inside, her heart was bleeding, but no one could see it. From then on, her dream of becoming a designer in Manila officially ended. Instead, Maria spent her days juggling school and rushing home to care for her mother, taking her to Mass, preparing food for fiestas, and enduring repeated criticisms. She became a shadow, studying and working, always nearby to serve, never daring to dream bigger. Roberto's death not only took away the man who loved her most, but it also stole Maria's future. From then on, she became the gatekeeper for her mother's needs and wishes, while her own dreams were buried deep under the dust of time. Maria never forgot the morning her father passed away. The image of his hand tightly holding hers in their last photo always appeared in her dreams. That moment etched a bitter truth deep in Maria's heart. She had to face everything alone, because from now on, no one would protect her anymore. After turning down a scholarship in Manila, Maria chose to study at a local university in Leyte. She studied hard and graduated with a bachelor's degree in visual communications. Her teachers praised her good eye for aesthetics. Friends advised her to move to a big city to grow, but Maria just smiled quietly. She knew that dream had been locked away a long time ago. Instead of Manila, Maria found work in Cebu City, not far from Leyte, close enough for a steady job, and close enough to return home when her mother needed her. She was hired by a medium-sized advertising company. Thanks to her hard work and creativity, within a few years Maria was promoted to creative director. To many, that was a proud achievement, but in her mother's eyes, it was nothing special. The day Maria excitedly shared the news, Mrs. Rosalinda just frowned and said, "Creative director? What's so big about a chair at a small company?" Compared to your Isabella director in Manila, do you think you can measure up? Those words extinguished the fire in Maria's heart. She didn't argue, just nodded and forced a smile, then quietly returned to her room, where her drawings and ideas were never recognized by her mother. Work in Cebu was busy, deadlines piled up one after another, but Maria never allowed herself to rest. Every day, after work, she would catch a long bus ride back to Leyte, carrying bags of food and medicine. She took care of her mother's medicine and meals carefully. If there was a leak on the Behe roof, Maria would climb up to fix it herself. If the fence was rotten, she would buy wood to replace it. Every time she returned home, instead of hearing thanks, Maria only heard harsh words. This adobo fish you cooked is too bland. Why don't you learn a bit from Isabella? That girl cooks so well. This dress makes you look 10 years older. Other girls know how to dress up, but you work in Cebu but don't even bring anything for your mother. Your sister comes back from Manila with gifts. Those comparisons were like little knives, stabbing Maria's heart day after day, but she still endured. Deep down, Maria believed that if she was just a little more patient and sacrificed a little more, one day her mother would recognize her. Once, when Maria poured all her effort into completing a big project, a marketing campaign for a beverage brand, the whole company praised her, and the local paper even ran a story. She excitedly brought the newspaper home to show her mother. Rosalinda just glanced at it and said, "What's so impressive about an ad? People in Manila work for foreign companies, but you're just stuck here. Don't get cocky." Maria stayed silent. The smile on her face faded away. Inside, once again, a flame that had just ignited was snuffed out. Day after day, Maria lived in two opposing worlds. By day in Cebu, she was a talented creative director, respected by her colleagues. By night in Leyte, she became a daughter who was never enough, always compared and criticized. Those small conflicts seemed insignificant, but they piled up into a huge burden. Maria felt like a bird trapped in a cage. No matter how strong her wings were, she couldn't fly far, because each time she flapped, an invisible string called duty pulled her back. The breaking point came one night when Maria came home late from Cebu because of traffic. She brought a bag of medicine for her mother. Just as she put the bag on the table, barely catching her breath, she heard her mother scold. "You're home this late?" Mom waited all day for the medicine. "I'm so selfish. Always just thinking about work." Maria wanted to explain that she had been packed like a sardine on the bus for 3 hours, that she had to skip an important meeting to buy the medicine on time. But as always, she just lowered her head and softly said, "I'm sorry, Mom." Deep down, Maria knew this conflict would never end. As long as she stayed, she would keep hearing comparisons and continue being put down. And deep in her heart, a silent crack was forming, a crack that later, with just one strong blow, would shatter into 1,000 pieces. Turning 60, Rosalinda's health began to decline. Chronic arthritis made it hard for her to move, especially climbing the stairs in the old wooden bahai in Leyte. The doctor advised many times to move to a one-story house, easier for daily life, but Rosalinda firmly refused. "This house holds memories of your father and me. I'm not leaving," she said firmly. Hearing this, Maria couldn't push her. She rearranged her life to take better care of her mother. On days when the pain worsened, Maria brought her mother to her small home in Cebu. She cleared out her workroom and set up a low bed so her mother could rest easily. Every meal, every glass of water, every pill, everything was prepared by Maria herself. In the mornings, Maria worked at the kitchen table with her laptop, editing designs while hearing her mother call from the next room. "Maria, bring me a cup of warm water." "Maria, this pillow is too hard, change it." "Maria, remember to cook soft porridge. My teeth are weak now." Not a moment of rest for Maria. Sometimes, with tight deadlines at work, she typed while running back and forth to serve her mother. Some days, exhausted, Maria would slump over the table, but just minutes later her mother's calls would bring her back into the endless cycle. But the hardest part wasn't the effort. It was how her mother never stopped criticizing. Even though Maria sacrificed both work and sleep to care for her, Rosalinda was cold. "You cooked this soup too salty. Eating it only hurts my joints. Why didn't you clean the windows? Look at all that dust. What kind of daughter are you, so clumsy?" Maria gritted her teeth and endured, because deep inside, she thought, Mom is old now, and with all her pain, being difficult is understandable. As long as I'm here, Mom will feel comforted. But the real pain came from another direction, Isabella, her older sister. Isabella lives in Manila, working for an international bank with a packed schedule. She only comes home twice a year, the village fiesta and Christmas. But every time she comes back, the whole atmosphere in the family changes completely. Rosalinda, who's usually grumpy and complaining, instantly becomes radiant. Her joint pains seem to disappear. She laughs and talks happily, sharing stories and praising Isabella endlessly. Look at your sister, Isabella. She always knows how to dress well. Look at you. Your sister just bought Mom a bottle of imported supplement from the US. You only buy cheap medicine from the village pharmacy. Isabella just took the whole family on a trip to Singapore. I wish you could be like her. Maria quietly washed the dishes in the kitchen, feeling a sharp pain with every comparison. All her efforts, from sleepless nights by Mom's bedside, simple meals following the diet, to cleaning every little corner of the house, became invisible in Mom's eyes. As soon as Isabella showed up for a few days, all of Maria's hard work was instantly erased. Once, during a Christmas dinner, Isabella bragged about a banking project she just finished, earning as much as Maria's entire year's salary. Mom smiled proudly, turned to Maria, and said, "Did you hear that? That's what success looks like. Your little creative director title means nothing." Maria tried to swallow her food, but her throat tightened. She wanted to shout that she was the one who was always here. She was the one carrying everything when Mom was sick. That Isabella only visited occasionally and had no idea how Mom was sometimes too weak to even lift her legs. But Maria stayed silent because she knew no matter what she said, Mom would never admit it. That silence made Maria feel more and more invisible in her own family. At work, her colleagues respected her talent. But at home, in Mom's eyes, she was nothing but Isabella's shadow. Day after day, Maria lived torn apart. She still sacrificed, still stayed patient, still hoped one day Mom would see the silent love she gave. But deep in her heart, the cracks kept growing bigger. And then, those very cracks would lead to the fateful moment at her mother's 65th birthday party, when all the long-held patience exploded like an earthquake. Mrs. Rosalinda's 65th birthday was approaching. For many, it was just another ordinary day. Another year older, a few more wrinkles. But for Maria, that day felt like a last chance. She believed that if she prepared carefully, perfectly, maybe this time her mother would smile and acknowledge her. For weeks, Maria quietly made plans. She didn't tell anyone, not even close colleagues, because she wanted it to be a surprise for her mother. She chose a fancy restaurant in Cebu City, known for private parties for the elite. The private dining room was decorated with white lilies and purple orchids, her mother's favorite flowers for a long time. Maria was also careful in picking the guest list. Not too many people, just the ones closest to her mother, friends from the barangay council, a few garden club members, and some old friends she rarely saw. Maria believed that when her mother saw familiar faces around the table, she would feel happy. The most important part was the gift. Maria clearly remembered the time she went with her mother to a small antique shop in downtown Cebu. At that moment, Mrs. Rosalinda's eyes lingered on an old brooch, a white gold pin set with sapphire and diamonds. She didn't buy it, just smiled sadly and walked away. That image stayed deeply in Maria's mind. From that day on, she started saving every penny. Project bonuses, extra savings from her studies, even money set aside for a dream trip, all saved up just to buy that gift. Maria believed that brooch would be a symbol. It wasn't just a piece of jewelry. It was her way of telling her mother, "I always pay attention to everything you like. I sacrificed everything to bring you joy." In the final days before the party, Maria was so worried she couldn't sleep. She double-checked the guest list, called the restaurant to make sure the menu had no allergic foods for her mother, even reminded the chef, "Please limit the garlic and onions. My mother has a sensitive constitution." She wants every detail to be perfect. In the mirror, Maria tries on a simple yet elegant navy blue dress. The color her mother once said was safe and suitable for a respectable woman. She carefully applies light makeup, just a bit of pale lipstick, and wears the pearl earrings her father gave her on her 18th birthday. In her heart, Maria whispers, "Dad, I hope today Mom will really see me. The big day has arrived." Maria arrives early at her mother's house, planning to prepare together. But when she knocks, Mrs. Rosalinda is still in her robe, leisurely as if in no rush at all. "Mom, we have to leave now to make it on time for the reservation," Maria reminds her. She raises her eyebrows and replies slowly, "You're always in a hurry. I haven't even picked out my dress yet. The guests have to wait for me. No one's waiting for you." Maria swallows hard, silently steps inside, quietly hangs her mother's blue dress back on the hanger. Once again, she puts aside her pride to keep the peace. When the car arrives at the restaurant, the guests have been waiting for nearly an hour. Maria quickly apologizes on her mother's behalf, her face flushing with embarrassment. But in contrast, when Rosalinda walks in, everyone claps and cheers. No one complains. They only see a dignified woman, exuding elegance, walking like a queen. Maria watches this scene, feeling both proud and bitter inside. Everything she did, from rescheduling the reservation to rushing around for flowers and cake, becomes invisible. All eyes are on her mother, as if Maria doesn't even exist. The party starts, food is served, lively chatter fills the room. People keep asking about Isabella, praising her achievements. Her mother smiles happily, constantly boasting, "Isabella just took the whole family to Japan. That girl is amazing." But before she finishes, her mother cuts in. "Maria, ask the server to pour me some more water. My glass is empty." The guests give awkward smiles. Maria bites her lip, swallowing her hurt deep inside. In the small purse on her lap, the silver-wrapped gift box remains still. Maria whispers inside, "It's okay. As long as Mom opens this gift, she will understand. All my efforts are for you, Mom." She comforted herself, just like she had many times before. But deep down, Maria couldn't stop worrying. Would this little hope be crushed, like so many times before? The candlelight flickering from the birthday cake just brought out the feelings in Maria's heart. In that moment, she didn't know that in just a few minutes, her last hope would shatter, and all the long-held tension would erupt like an unstoppable earthquake. The party room sparkled with warm yellow lights, whispers mixed with the clinking of spoons against glasses. Maria sat quietly at the end of the table, her heart pounding in her chest. So many days of preparation, so much hope placed on this moment. Yet, from the very start, everything wasn't as she had imagined. When her mother saw the white lilies and purple orchids Maria specially ordered, she just frowned. "Too many flowers. This many flowers look messy, not elegant." Maria forced a smile and softly replied, "I thought you'd like them." But her mother cut her off. "You're overthinking it. Simple is enough." Those words felt like a small knife cutting into Maria's heart. But she stayed silent because the guests had started complimenting the decorations. She didn't want to ruin the mood. The appetizer was served. Fresh seafood salad. Maria had told the chef to avoid garlic, but Rosalinda frowned after one bite. "This salad is too cold, and the dressing is too sour. Why did you pick this place? It doesn't suit my taste at all." The whole table chuckled, thinking she was joking. But Maria knew her mother was completely serious. She lowered her head, hands trembling as she held her spoon, trying to hide the tears threatening to fall. The meal continued in a mood that was both joyful and tense. Maria could only watch her mother closely, pouring water, adjusting napkins like a server, not a daughter on her special day. When the main course arrived, the birthday cake was pushed in, its candlelight illuminating the whole room. Everyone clapped and sang, "Happy Birthday," together. Maria bit her lip tightly, hands clutching the small box in her dress pocket, the boutonniere gift she had saved up for years to give. Her heart swelled with hope. This time, Mom will understand. Mom will see my love. After blowing out the candles, a guest from the barangay laughed cheerfully. "Rosalinda, 65 years old, what do you wish for? Share it with us." All eyes turned to her. Rosalinda took a sip of wine, her sharp gaze scanning the table, then rested on Maria. A faint smile appeared on her lips. She spoke clearly, each word falling like cold tiles on the floor. "My birthday wish is simple. Maria, leave my life. The room fell silent. The clink of spoons stopped. Laughter died out. Even the band playing guitar in the corner lost rhythm. Strings slackened. Maria was stunned. Her ears rang as if all sound had vanished. She stared at her mother, unable to believe what she had just heard. "Mom, what did you say?" The question stuck in her throat, unable to come out. The banquet table was completely silent. A few guests exchanged awkward glances. Someone tried to joke. Maybe it's just a joke, right? But Rosalinda didn't smile. She put down her wine glass, coldly repeating, "Yes, I mean it. My life will be lighter if Maria is not part of it anymore." An invisible wind swept through Maria's heart. She felt like she was falling into a bottomless pit. Her whole body trembled, hands gripping the edge of the table until they turned white. The guests looked at Maria with mixed pity and discomfort. No one dared to say a word. In that moment, Maria felt like all the lights in the room were pointed at her, exposing her unbearable shame. The small gift box fell from her hand, rolling on the tile floor with a dry click. No one picked it up for her. No one comforted her. Maria sat still, her eyes blurred, but her lips forced a smile. She was used to pretending to be strong, used to hiding her pain. But this time, the pain was too big, too deep. It was like the final knife cutting the fragile thread, connecting her to the mother she had sacrificed her whole life to love. In Maria's mind echoed the words, "Leave my life, leave my life," like a curse, like a sentence. The party night was supposed to be a moment of healing, but it became a harsh climax where Maria was pushed out of her own family. Maria stood up. New words, new sobs, only the sound of the chair scraping the floor, dry and cold. All eyes turned to her, but Maria didn't look back. She walked straight to the door, her steps heavy as if treading on thousands of broken glass shards. Outside the restaurant in Cebu, the night air was humid and stifling. The streetlights cast a dim yellow glow, mingling with the smell of exhaust and the salty sea breeze. Maria took a long breath, but instead of relief, her chest tightened. Tears welled up and streamed down her cheeks. She didn't scream or shout, she just let the tears flow freely. Inside her heart, there was such a huge emptiness that she felt like she had been torn away from the world itself. Maria took a taxi home. In the car, the driver occasionally glanced at the rearview mirror, noticing her red eyes. But he stayed silent, not daring to ask. Maria just stared out the window, where city lights rushed past like fleeting memories. When she got home to the small house, Maria closed the door, leaned against the wooden door, then slid down to the floor. She burst into tears, sobbing silently. Memories flooded back, childhood days sitting at the study table, carefully drawing, hoping for a word of praise from her mother, late nights sewing a torn shirt for her mother, tiring bus rides from Cebu to Leyte to make it home for family dinner. All of it seemed meaningless. She whispered in broken breaths, "I gave you everything, but for you, it was never enough." On the table was a small box, a birthday gift she hadn't given yet. She opened it. The collar pin shone under the yellow light, sparkling yet lonely. It was just like her, a gem that was never truly recognized. The pain she had bottled up for years finally exploded. Maria felt like all her sacrifices were wiped away by a single sentence. It wasn't just denial, but a cold verdict. Get out of my life. How many more wounds could she bear if she stayed? That night, Maria couldn't sleep. She sat by the window, listening to the distant sound of the sea waves. The moonlight cast over her tear-streaked face, slowly calming her. Inside her, a decision was taking shape. When the first light of dawn appeared, Maria whispered, a promise to herself. From today on, she would give her mother what she wanted, her absence. Maria stood up, wiping away her last tear. In the mirror, her eyes were red and swollen, but her gaze had changed. It was no longer just pain, but a quiet, fierce determination. She began packing her things. Every shirt, every sketchbook, every photo, with her colleagues. All hastily packed, as if she feared that hesitation would pull her back. When sunlight streamed through the window, Maria was ready. The familiar room, once filled with small hopes, was now empty. Only a pinned gift box remained on the table. She didn't take it with her. That was the full stop. Maria took one last look around, then stepped out the door. The wooden door closed with a resounding sound, like closing a whole chapter of life. As the last light of the birthday party faded, Maria made a decision she never thought she had the courage to leave. But not running away in the vague way she once imagined. This time, she left with a clear plan and an unprecedented determination. First, Maria sold the traditional wooden house in Leyte, where Father Roberto once sheltered her, where childhood memories were piled high. That house was once the family's pillar, but now it was just a shadow of the past holding her back. Signing the papers to sell the house was a declaration. She wouldn't return, and she wouldn't let her life be trapped within those old wooden walls anymore. Not stopping there, Maria also went to the bank to handle the joint account that Rosalinda's mother had long used to control her. She requested to freeze the entire balance and transfer it into a medical trust fund dedicated solely to medicine and hospital bills. When the bank staff asked in surprise, Maria just smiled softly. It's still for her, but no longer for lavish parties or frivolous things. For the first time in her life, Maria both cut off her mother's power and kept a minimum responsibility as a final sign of respect. Early the next morning, while Leyte town was still sleepy, Maria pulled her old suitcase and headed to the bus station. No one knew, and there was no farewell. She quietly left the place that had held her for more than 30 years. Through the bus window, Maria watched the blue sea slowly fade behind her. Her heart ached, but within that pain was an unprecedented relief. For the first time, she felt what freedom truly was. After many hours of travel, Maria arrived in Batangas, then took a ferry to Mindoro Island. Her destination was a small, isolated fishing village where simple bamboo bahay kubo huts stood right by the shore, where children ran around flying kites that swayed in the wind, and men went out to sea at dawn, returning late afternoon with baskets full of fish. Here, no one knew the name Maria. No one called her Rosalinda's daughter. She chose a new name for herself, Marite Cruz. A simple, ordinary name that wouldn't draw attention, and that was exactly what she needed. Under this new identity, she rented a small house by a coconut grove with the sea in front and green coconut fields behind. During the day, sunlight poured through the windows. At night, the sound of waves gently lulled her to sleep. From a cramped house full of reproaches, she now had a place to call her own. At work, Maria started with small projects. She used an old laptop, connected to the internet at the village cafe, and took online design jobs from international clients. Thanks to years of experience in advertising in Cebu, Maria quickly impressed with her creativity and dedication. Gradually, she gained regular clients, enough to cover her living expenses and even save for personal plans. Every design she sends out is not just work, but a step toward rebuilding a once broken dream. The dream of becoming a true designer. Maria also changed her appearance. She no longer wore office dresses or high heels. Instead, her hair was let down naturally. She wore simple cotton shirts and sometimes just a plain floral dress bought from the village market. The locals only knew her as a kind woman who often smiled, ready to teach kids how to draw or help neighbors write signs. No one knew how dark her past had been. Every afternoon, as the sun slowly set over the sea, Maria sat on the porch, letting the sea breeze blow through her hair, telling herself, I'm no longer Maria, the unwanted daughter. Now, I'm Maritz, the woman in charge of her own life. Yet, in those peaceful moments, memories would sometimes return. The image of Father Roberto appeared, his gentle eyes, warm voice, and then the cold words from his 65th birthday party echoed, My birthday wish. Maria, leave my life. Those words once stunned her, but now they became a kind of strength. That rejection turned her into a new person, brave enough to leave the darkness, strong enough to stand up. Maria knew that in Leyte, Rosalinda's mother and Isabella's sister were surely still gossiping, living off the neighbors' praise, and still saw her as a failed daughter. She had shaken off the chains of comparison and blame and was slowly building a completely new life. And here's the unexpected twist. Maria didn't collapse or disappear into darkness as her mother expected. On the contrary, she disappeared to be reborn, to become a different person living a life she never dared to dream of before. This truth, if ever revealed one day, would shock both her family and the community in Leyte. In the first weeks after Maria left, the town of Leyte was buzzing like a marketplace. News of her disappearance spread everywhere, but not the truth. Rosalinda's mother, as a member of the barangay council, well known at church and fiestas, quickly created a different story. She told neighbors and fellow villagers after Mass, "Maria ran away, taking all the family's money. I'm old and sick like this, and my daughter was heartless." Those words reached the people's ears, and everyone shook their heads with sympathy. The image of a betrayed mother easily touched the hearts of a community that deeply respects parents. No one knew the truth about the medical trust fund, and no one heard about the years Maria had sacrificed. A week later, the local newspaper even published an article with a big headline, "Barangay Councilor Rosalinda, abandoned by her daughter." It described Rosalinda as a strong woman who had devoted her life to the community but was now living alone because her daughter ran away with all the money. The article was accompanied by a photo of her wearing a barong Tagalog with a worn face, holding a rosary, eyes lifted to the sky as if begging for help. The people in the barangay were moved to tears. They visited her more often, bringing baskets of fruit, some rice, and a few dishes after Mass. Everyone praised her as a model mother, a strong woman. Rosalinda became a symbol of sacrifice, while Maria was turned into a traitor, an ungrateful child. Meanwhile, in Mindoro, Maria accidentally saw the article on social media. An old friend from Cebu sent her the link with the message, "Is your mom talking about you?" Just seeing the picture of her mother praying with folded hands made Maria's heart tighten. She tremblingly read every line, feeling angry, sad, and helpless all at once. How could she say that? After everything I've done, she still makes me out to be the bad one? Maria wondered, her eyes blurred with tears. In the small house by the fishing village, she held the phone but didn't have the courage to press comment or share. She knew if she spoke up, people would still believe her mother's story. The woman respected by the whole community. Maria's voice would just be a lonely whisper in the wind. That night, Maria sat alone by the window, watching the sea waves glitter under the moonlight. The pain wasn't like the day her mother declared, "Leave my life right at the dinner table." That day, she hurt from being rejected. But now, the pain was multiplied because her honor and lifelong love had been twisted into a false story. In Leyte, the news kept repeating. The elderly women, after Mass, whispered, "Poor Counselor Rosalinda. Her daughter ran away with her money." The men in the grocery store shook their heads. Maria really is bad. Who would have thought the youngest daughter would be like that? Even the kids in the neighborhood whispered and pointed whenever they passed by Rosalinda's house. Meanwhile, Isabella, Maria's older sister, only came back to Leyte on weekends. She stood next to their mother, in front of the neighbors, emphasizing, "I will take care of Mom instead of Maria. I will never abandon Mom." Those words only made Maria the cursed name, while Isabella was praised as the devoted daughter. From afar, Maria watched everything through her phone screen. Her heart felt torn apart. She had left to free herself, but never expected the price to pay would be her reputation being dragged through the mud. She was angry at her mother, angry at the community for believing lies, but deep inside, what hurt her most was feeling turned into the enemy by her own blood. Maria closed her laptop and covered her face with her hands. Tears streamed down, but this time, she wasn't crying out of weakness. In that pain, a different fire began to rise. If she had spent her whole life silently enduring, this time, Maria promised herself she would not let anyone else define her life. One rainy afternoon in Mindoro, while Maria was finishing a design for an international client, her phone buzzed. A message came from an unknown number, but the sender's name made her heart skip. Dr. Antonio, the familiar doctor from Leyte, who had treated her mother for many years. "Maria, I want to tell you the truth. Your mother never had a heart attack like everyone says. It was just a mild panic attack. She had done this a few times before to get attention." Maria dropped the computer mouse. Her eyes widened, her chest tightened. That feeling was both familiar and painful. Since she was little, she had seen her mother use illness to gain pity and keep Maria tied close. But this time, she turned it into a big show for the community. Maria took a deep breath and closed her eyes. In that moment, the truth hit her like a wave. Her mother was not only cruel in words, but also skillfully manipulating her own image. And Maria, the youngest daughter, had become the villain in the play her mother staged. For the first time in years, Maria felt she no longer wanted to cry. Instead, she found clarity. She was no longer the trembling child under her mother's stern gaze. She was 32 years old, independent, and now had the right to stand up and defend her own honor. The next day, Maria contacted a lawyer in Cebu. She provided all the documents related to the trust fund she had set up, clearly stating every penny meant for her mother's medical expenses, legally overseen. The lawyer helped her draft an official statement, sent to the Leyte Town Court and the newspaper that published the article. In that statement, Maria did not use a tone of anger or resentment. She simply presented the facts, that she hadn't taken any money, that all the funds remained intact in the care trust, ready to be used when her mother needed them. She emphasized, "I left not to abandon, but to protect myself after years of pain." The news spread fast. At first, many were skeptical, but when they saw the official red stamp and the bank's verified signature, the community started to whisper. The murmurs in coffee shops, markets, and after Mass shifted. Maybe Maria isn't as bad as we thought. The biggest surprise was Isabella. For the first time, Maria's older sister carefully read all the documents. The legal papers left no room for denial. Isabella saw the raw truth. The sister she once thought was unfilial had silently carried a heavy responsibility. That night, Maria received a long email from Isabella. The subject line had only 2 words, "I'm sorry." In the letter, Isabella wrote, "Maria, I believed everything Mom said without checking. I thought you were weak and selfish, but the truth is you endured it all for our family. I'm sorry for leaving you to shoulder everything alone. If you allow me, I want to meet again, not to blame, but to start over. You're still my sister, and I don't want to lose you forever." Maria read the letter, tears falling onto the keyboard. This wasn't the acknowledgement from her mother she had longed for all those years, but it came from Isabella, who had always been held in higher regard. For the first time, Maria saw her sister bow her head, saw a small door open for reconciliation. She sat silently for a long time, listening to the waves crashing on the sea. Her heart still ached, but the pain now had the shape of truth, no longer a vague shadow. She knew her life no longer had to revolve around praise or recognition from a harsh mother. Now, she could live for herself, and if possible, rebuild a new relationship with the sister she had drifted apart from. Maria didn't answer right away. She just whispered to herself, "This is just the beginning. A beginning for me, not for anyone else." During her months in Mindoro, Maria slowly learned to breathe without feeling her mother's shadow behind her. She woke up early, walked on the dew-wet sand, feeling the sea breeze blow through her hair. She started drawing again, designing again, and sending her creative works to clients she had never met. Every penny earned, though small, was proof that she could stand on her own 2 feet. Maria discovered that peace is not something others give us. Peace must be created by ourselves, by leaving behind places that always hurt us. And in the quiet of the fishing village, she found a Maria she had never met before, a strong, free Maria who smiled for herself, not to please anyone else. Sometimes, true love isn't about holding on. It's about having the courage to let go, to set boundaries and say, "Enough." Maria realized that leaving wasn't betrayal, but an act of self-love, something she had never done in 32 years. Family love can heal, but it can also break us down. Not every family is perfect. Not every mother knows how to love. But what Maria proved is this: we have the right to choose our own way of life, even if it means leaving our own blood relatives behind. This story isn't to make you hate your family, but to remind you that you have the right to protect your own heart. Because sometimes, only by walking away, can we find our true voice again. Maria chose to leave, and through that, she found healing. She built a small wooden house by the coast, planted some flowers in front of the yard, and learned to cook the dishes she loved without fear of anyone's judgment. Every afternoon, she watched the sunset over Mindoro Sea and whispered, "Finally, this is a gift for myself." And now, I want to ask you, the viewers watching this video, have you ever had to walk away from someone you loved for your own peace? Family can break you, but it can also heal you. Comment below. Please share your story in the comments. Because at Crying Inside, we believe that every story, every tear, when shared, becomes part of a collective healing journey. If this story touched your heart, please hit subscribe to join us along the way. And maybe next time, your family story will be the inspiration for us to tell the next one. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's story with Crying Inside. Every family has its hidden corners, wounds we sometimes don't dare to name. But it's when those stories are told that we realize we are never alone. If you've experienced similar pain or are on a journey to find peace within your family, remember, you have the right to set boundaries. You have the right to love yourself first. At Crying Inside, we share family stories, not just to make you cry, but to awaken strength, empathy, and hope that even if family can hurt us, it can also heal us. Hit subscribe so you don't miss the next stories where every video is a journey, every tale is a connection, and every ending is a ray of light. And please leave a comment below. Your story might be a comfort to someone out there. Because sometimes, disappearing isn't the end. Sometimes, disappearing is not the end. It's the beginning of finally appearing as your true self. Thank you, and see you in the next story from Crying Inside.